Hey everyone, it's Kale from Scud Style, and I have part 5 of my NoFap Literature Retention Sexual Cultivation series. And today's book is a little bit different because it's not something that I personally practice, but I find that there's a lot of overlapping information that validates a lot of other sources. And that would be The Heart of Tantric Sex, A Unique Guide to Love and Sexual Fulfillment by Diana Richardson. There she is. So like I said, I don't practice Tantra. I'm not necessarily even pro Tantra, but I think it's important to be open and look for sources that kind of are separate from things that I study and see how those things may fit in or may validate or support or corroborate certain claims, especially with something very Eastern like this. So without further ado, I kind of want to get into it. And so because it's a book on Tantra, it's based mostly around partner activities, but there's a lot of information in these pages, and I've highlighted the spots, and those are the ones I'll specifically go over about what can be applied to just the sexual energy in general, and things like retention, and things like cultivating and transmuting sexual energy. So anyway, I'll just go through the contents real quick like I do with all my books. Part 1, The Roots, Reframing Sex, Sexual Conditioning, Polarity, and the Positive Poles of Love. Awareness of Body and Mind, Penetrating Innocence, The Love Keys. Part 2, The Love Keys, The Eyes, The Breath, Communication, Genital Consciousness, Touch, Relaxation, Soft Penetration, Deep Penetration, Rotating Positions. Again, activities, partners, right? Part 3, The Journey, Make a Date to Make Love, Foreplay Afresh, Pleasing and Performance. Orgasm and ejaculation, non-ejaculation, premature ejaculation, erection and impotence, feeling and emotion, women emotions and the heart, life cycles and safe sex, alone or on your own, the love temple. So I'm not going to go into all of those things in this book because my focus is on different things than that, and I can't necessarily support or validate any of these claims with my own experience. But instead, I will focus on the parts of this book where she goes into things that will be more interesting to those interested in sexual energy in general. So without further ado, let's get to the first part that I bookmarked. And it's called Sexual Energy and the Life Force. This little thing. And I'm going to read it for a second. There's simply no way of containing sexual energy. It is the life force itself. Even though in our minds we often try to separate sexual energy and other energy, the truth is that it is all one and all the same thing. Energy is simply energy, with an inherent capacity to move, and it moves, whether the life force expresses itself through sex or survival, in art, athletics, or music. And try as we might, we cannot repress or ignore this energy. We can only learn to channel it in the most intelligent and uplifting of ways. So that right there is obviously not the transmutation, and that we all have this energy, and so you don't have to expel it through ejaculation or through the act of sex, but you can transmute it, and your body can reabsorb it, and you can transmute it into other activities, passion, creativity, inspiration, things like that. So that's the first section I wanted to talk about. Next one, phases of sexual energy. And so here, we have a little diagram here about, the genitals and the brain. Sexual energy is released down and out. The brain sends signals biologically, and then up here, the genitals send signals back to the brain, the spiritual generative phase. Sexual energy rises in and up instead of down and out. And so I'm going to read this for a second because this is really interesting. In human beings, sexual energy is understood to run in a circular path along internal channels through the body, with 2 distinct phases. The first phase, an initial impetus of sexual energy, begins in the brain before circling downward to the genitals, which is the first one we looked at. More specifically, the hypothalamic pituitary region and the pineal gland in the brain secrete hormones that control the endocrine system in the body, and these include the sex glands. These hormones maintain sexual well-being and promote the eventual readiness for sexual intercourse. This is the first and descending half of the circle, from the brain to the genitals. It is known as the biological or reproductive phase of sexual energy, and it is here that we invariably release the sexual energy created in sex through orgasm or ejaculation. The secret of Tantra and its prime interest is that sexual energy is encouraged to be retained in the body. That's what we're going for too, right? It is not habitually released in orgasm or ejaculation. It remains within the body and is recirculated, and through this we fulfill our orgasmic potential. In the second half and ascending phase, sexual energy is given the opportunity to circulate back to its source in the brain, so as to revitalize and nourish the master glands, the pineal and the pituitary, in the body. These glands have a profound influence on health. Sexual activity is known to release many hormonal factors that positively affect body and attitude, and since ancient times, sex has been associated with longevity and spiritual illumination. When sexual energy can be reabsorbed, recycled, sex becomes a revitalizing, energizing force. This is known as the spiritual or generative phase of sex. See, the second figure we looked at, from genitals to brain. And here the genitals are viewed reverently as generative organs. Assessing the second phase of our sexual energy by allowing it to turn inward and upward is the revelation of Tantra. It shows us that sex can be directed to create more life, not simply another life. To create more life, not simply another life. And that's kind of what we're going with the enlightenment process of retention or sexual cultivation, all of these different things that we're talking about. It's all about, and just NoFap, it's about making your life better. It's about taking this energy that you've been giving away for so long and just retaining that and cultivating that for yourself and then turning that into a better life for you, right? More life, right? As opposed to giving another life through reproduction. And then the last couple sections here, orgasm and ejaculation. I'm going to read a little piece from each one just to kind of highlight a lot of the overall things that we have in common. After a man ejaculates, sex is over. The opportunity for closeness and sharing energy has passed, simply evaporated. This is exactly where Tantra says, why end it here? Why come and throw out your semen habitually? It is pure energy. It is imbued with the potency of life force. So keep it inside yourself. The body will ejaculate if it really has to ejaculate. You don't need to help it along. Many men report feeling depleted after ejaculation. The jokes in our society about men turning over and snoring after they come are actually sad but true, and yet we still go for the end of the sex act. Still go for it. Just going for it, right? All right, and the last part here I'm going to read non-ejaculation, because in Tantra they practice a lot of non-ejaculation, but retention can be another form of that, even without having sex, right? One of the confusions about ejaculation is that it is valued as a form of relaxation, but it is really a dissipation, a tremendous loss of energy which results in fatigue or irritation rather than the refreshing quality typical of relaxation. Ancient Taoist principles whereby a man derives good health through living in harmony with the universe embrace the phenomenon of non-ejaculation, retaining the semen in the body and reabsorbing the life force into longevity. Reabsorbing the life force into longevity. So there's all kinds of good stuff in this book. Like I said, if you have a partner and you want to kind of practice some of this stuff, and the solo practice is a little bit too, I don't know, if you want to add a sexual component and you have a partner where it can be productive and not simply another vice for you, then this could be something worth exploring. Like I said, I can't speak either way about it, but I think I wanted to give a little bit of an overview of this book and point out the things that kind of validate and support all of this NoFap theory and all the retention and stuff that I've experienced myself to be true for me. So anyway, I hope you all find that super informative. I'll post a link for this book like I do for the other ones in the description below if you're interested in reading it for yourself. And I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I thank you so much for watching.